So we're gonna go into 5 easy steps to speak your truth in mastery, and you can use these tips in any relationships. You can use it with your gym instructor, with your school teacher, with your kids, with your husband or wife, with your partner, especially with your friends, especially with difficult people. So Gabrielle, who's one of our diehard Ascension students, wrote on our Discord channel, she was heartbroken. She said, EldoRa, I watched your attack video and I felt so inspired by how calm and compassionate and non-judgmental and all of that you've been. And recently, and Gabrielle says, I'm the calmest person, I'm the sweetest person. And she says, recently, my roommate who I was living with, basically, there were so many things going wrong that finally I felt like, I had to send an email to just let her know that these are all my complaints, these are all the things that are not going well for me. And I thought I was speaking my truth. I thought that's what I'm supposed to do. And she said the response was extremely ridiculous. This girl not only didn't understand anything I was saying, like I was talking about oranges and she was replying about hippopotamus. And we all know what that means, what that feels like. It feels very upsetting and irritating. So she's like, when I got this dumb response, I, who's a person who never swears, swore at this girl. And she's like, I haven't sworn for years. So Gabrielle got very worried because she's a diehard Ascension student. And she says, is this the dark channeling through me? Is this what you mean by the dark channeling through me? And how do I speak in mastery without bottling up all of this frustration within me? And how do I speak without eliciting this extremely triggersome response from the other person? Who here can relate? Can you guys all relate to this? That sometimes you have the best of intentions. You just want to say something, even with your partner. Your image of how you're speaking to your partner is more like, hi baby, this isn't working out. And the response is so strong. It could be anywhere, it could be in a restaurant, and we're gonna give you 5 simple steps to completely shift out of the way you are communicating. I know all of you go through this. We are going to shift from this in 5 simple steps, and this is going to just trigger so many changes within you. All right, where do we start? Okay. So I'm going to give you some guidelines before we go into the 5 steps. The first guideline that is going to free you is you guys have to now start practicing the frequency of unconditional love. That's a big one. You guys, this is not even, I haven't even gotten to the first step yet. I'm just giving you the framework for this. You guys have to start practicing the frequency of unconditional love versus a complaining tone. Okay, we'll get into that in a second. So if Gabrielle had practiced unconditional love, and I'm going to show you how to do that, it would completely shift her reality and perhaps get a different response. An email comes off very cold, like, hey, I'm just sending you an email, and I know you mean well. This is no judgment. We've all done this. My God, I've done this a million times, trust me. Even with Siman. By the way, these are my list of complaints. And first when we started dating, and he's like, what the fuck is this? Why couldn't you book a face-to-face meeting? So first of all, a cold email doesn't do anyone any justice. It sets you up right away for a very cold conversation with no heart. And a cold email saying, here are my list of complaints. I'm Miss Almighty correct. And no judgment, no judgment. This is a judgment-free zone. So what happens is that when you go through that angle of cold email with these are my list of complaints, you're not talking, this is a big one, you're not talking to the person. You are talking to the person's ego. And once you don't talk to the person's heart, but you start talking to the person's ego, boom, you've lost them. You've literally lost them. This is the 101 of this is the most basic mistake people make in communication, because they can't get through the other person, because right away in your first email or message, you've lost this person. And they become unreasonable, they get triggered, and they think you are hostile, okay? Now, this is very interesting. Another very diehard Ascension student, Shane, in our community, in our Discord private New Earth Mystery School only community, replied to her and he said, the way I look at it is that we're all one. So if you got triggered by her, you have to look within yourself, and ultimately we're all one. And yes, that is true in a sense, but I ask you this. What would you do if your roommate peed all over your house and you said, oh, you know what, we're all one, I need to like bear with this. Like she's peed all over my house or he's peed all over my house and he was drunk or whatever, and we're all gods, we're all creative beings, so I have to tolerate this. So there's a misconception, there's a disconnect in this teaching of we're all one, so we need to take each other's shit, because that's not the case at all. Having healthy boundaries is very, very healthy, very conducive for you, and there is no reason to accept other people's shit in this flawed theory or this incomplete theory that we're all one, so we shouldn't judge each other, and you know what I mean? Okay, so now I'm going to give you the 5 steps. The first step, and in this example, is when you have a hostile situation and when you know that you need to shift something with someone, the first thing you do is you calm yourself down and you bring yourself to 0 point. You bring yourself to neutrality. How do you do that? Of course, you're triggered. You're like, this roommate is upsetting me. My husband is upsetting me. I'm so mad. This friend of mine is so rude to me. I'm so mad. The first thing you do, if you decide to have a conversation, the first thing you do is you calm yourself down. You don't even start the conversation till you have come to 0 point. And how do you calm yourself down? You can meditate. You can literally play ocean waves for an hour, because it takes an hour for the brain waves to start to, like relax and melt. Or you can go lie under a tree for an hour or 2. Immediately you'll get clarity and you'll go to 0 point. And that energy, that charge you feel, that negative charge, that trigger you feel, all of that subsides. Okay? So the first thing is you bring yourself back to 0 point, and you never, and I mean you never, communicate until you are in neutrality. You guys got this? Even with your spouses, even with your children, even in any situation. You don't communicate when you have that rush, that trigger, that oomph, that fire. You don't do that. So you first calm down. That's the first step. Within the first step, you calm down and you make sure you have no judgments. Okay, this is where Shane's teaching comes in, that we're all one. You don't have judgments. Hey, I've been there. I've acted like a total asshole at times. You know what? I get it. But you let go of judgment, saying I am superior and you are inferior. Do you guys get it? You let go of any judgment and you bring yourself to 0 point. That's the first step. The second step, which is so important, is you set an intention for your meeting. You set an intention for your discussion. So in Gabrielle's case, what would the intention be? My roommate and I are clashing. And let's say you want this to work, because obviously if you're sending an email, you want this to work. So the second intention is, you guys with me so far? Comment, let me know. You guys with me? Everyone with me? So the second intention is you set an intention. You say, my intention is to have a calm communication, calm conversation with my roommate with the intention of bettering our relationship, with the intention of helping our relationship. My intention is to have a calm and honest conversation with my spouse or my friend who is being very triggersome to me, but my intention is very clear. My intention is not to disrupt the relationship. If it is, be honest with your intention that I want to end this relationship. But in Gabrielle's case, her intention was to better this relationship that wasn't going well. So the intention has to be very, 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 very clear. And also you can affirm to yourself, my intention is to come across in neutrality and not superiority. This is a big one, because that instantly tames your ego. Your ego is not out of sorts, saying, I am the shit and you've made all these mistakes. And so, because instantly when you talk to people like that, you're talking to their ego, and there's no winning in that. So that's the second one. Now, also in your mind, you can set the intention that it is my intention, and this is a big one, because many of you cannot see your own blind spots. We as humans can see other people's blind spots, but we can't see our own blind spots. So in this part, you're also saying, my intention is to be open to receive whatever feedback the other person has of me as well. So you're going into this with no judgment. You're going into this with intention, with I am open to be heard, and also to receive, to hear. So that's the second one. Like, I'm open to other person's feedback. Step number 3. I've already told you this, set a face-to-face meeting. And within this, be very firm on the time. So let's say Gabrielle and her friend, it's not like, hey, do you want to just quickly meet and your cell phone's going off and the children are screaming? It's not like that. it's very important to set up the space for an important conversation you're about to have with anyone. It doesn't matter who it is. It could even be your boss. You send an email or you send a text and say, hey, I would love for us, there's a few things I just wanted to chat with you guys about or with you about. How does tomorrow 7 p.m. sound? And maybe we can do a potluck, like I'll make something, and set a light-hearted mood. Okay, so when you're about to have this conversation, don't have this hostile mood where you're already going in thinking, something's wrong. And you're not going in with this energy of, I can't wait to pounce on you and tell you everything that you are not doing right. You can't go in with that energy. Instead, set a light-hearted mood. Say, hey, how about we grab a coffee? And I just want to talk with you. There's an hour. Let's turn off our cell phones. Let's make sure we're unreachable and let's talk. Okay, so that's the third step. And no distractions. Make sure you turn off your cell phone. Because the worst thing is when you're trying to get through a serious conversation and get your point across, the cell phone's going off, this girl's, it's going to irritate you and trigger. So set the space. The fourth one was set a light-hearted mood. I've already said, I guess I covered second and third. So let's go to the fourth point is create a light-hearted mood. I'm just repeating that part, not a heavy mood. And, okay, step number 4, state the intention to your friend at the beginning of the meeting. So step number 4 is you're literally saying, okay, we've come up to this coffee shop or wherever, dinner at home, it doesn't matter. All right, hey, listen, I've really been wanting to speak to you about this. And my intention is to better this relationship. My intention is for us to be better roommates. My intention is for us to be a better couple, a more harmonic couple. So state the intention and be very vulnerable. Now, in the emotional scale, a lot of people jump to judgment and anger and you did something wrong. But instead, there's a lot of steps in the emotional scale. For example, vulnerability can become your best friend. Be vulnerable. This is a huge tip. Instead of being angry, be vulnerable and say, I know I'm not perfect either. My only intention is to better this relationship. And you know what? I'm not a super A++ communicator. I have my flaws. I am not a great communicator. I try my best. So please be easy on me if I say something that upsets you, because my only intention is to better this relationship. So now you've set the space, you've got your time, the other person's ego is not even in the picture. The other person's like, of course. Oh my God, yes, let's talk. So now this person is in their heart. Now, you have to mean all of this. You can't fake it. You can't be angry and say, oh, I just mean love and I'm not triggered. And you have to mean it. That's why you have to, step 1 is so important. You have to get yourself back to 0 point. Now, step number 5. This is the most important step. You've already done everything. You've set up the space. And now you speak your truth. And you say, hey, you know what? There are some things that I'm feeling a bit upset about. There are some things that are not working out right. There are a few things in the way we're living that's triggering me. And I understand that I have to change as well. So I want us to just talk to just improve the relationship. What can I do better? And what can you do better? So here are a few things that I want to talk to you about. You know, it really upsets me when you don't do the dishes. It really upsets me when you are insensitive to my needs. It upsets me, and maybe it's because I have this germaphobe feeling. Maybe whatever it is, take ownership, because you're expecting the other person to change for you. So take ownership, or say, I don't like it when you just throw your shoes and your bag on the couch. It triggers me. And you know what? So be honest about the communication. Now, this is where things went really wrong with Gabrielle and her friend, because when her friend got the email, her friend responded in a very, very negative way. And then Gabrielle responded with swearing and whatnot. So if you had followed all these instructions, if you had followed all these steps rather, you've set the space up for success. Now, this step 5 is actually extremely important. I'll go to questions in a minute. Okay, that's a very different question. Lioness asks, what if my intention is to go different ways, but the other person doesn't want to let go? So let me talk about that real quick before we get into the step number 5, which is the most important step. It's not about what the other person wants. It's about what you want. It's not about what the other person wants. That's you giving away your power and saying, I don't want to eat this apple, but you know, the other person really thinks I should eat it, so I'm going to eat it. That's not what God does. That's not what a creator being does. So you have to stay in your power. you have to know that it is your right to leave a relationship without any guilt. If I had not left my 20-year-old marriage, there was nothing really wrong. But if I hadn't left, I wouldn't have been an ascension guide. I wouldn't have met Siman. I wouldn't have had this beautiful life of my dream aligned to my soul's passion. I had to leave. It was very hard. I was like, how poor him? How's he going to eat? Poor him. We women take on so much burden. How's he going to live? How's he going to manage? How are his parents going to feel? Poor people. You forget about all the shit they've thrown at you and you start taking on other people's burdens. So first of all, let go of all burdens. It's about you. Ultimately, this is a very fundamental tip. It's not selfish to put yourself first. It is not selfish to put yourself first, because the more you fill your cup, the more you're aligned to your soul's mission, the more you know what you need to do. It becomes very clear. In fact, for you, I would say get some space. Go away for 2 days or 3 days on your own to feel the separation energy from this person you're trying to get away from. And once you separate your energy from this person is when you're really going to get clarity, like, fuck, I need to get out of this relationship ASAP. And then you do it following these exact steps that I talked about. And then you don't take no for an answer. Now let's get to step 5. Step 5 of how to set yourself up for in ultimate mastery, in unconditional love, to have conversations that don't trigger the other person's ego. Step 5 is the most important step. Be fully detached of all outcomes and be ready to walk away. So in Gabrielle's case, let's say she had done all of this. She had set herself up in unconditional love. She had brought herself down to 0 point. She had meditated and made sure that she had set up a space. She wasn't in judgment. She was in compassion. She didn't have any superiority or attack energy. Let's say she just went in love. This is where your divine authority, your divine power comes in. That is where the power of the Ascended Masters of Source flows through you. So really pay attention to this one. Now that you've done all the right things, you're not working in your ego. Most of you have a hard time discerning between right and wrong because part of you is in your ego. Part of you is judging. Part of you is considering yourself the saint and the other person the not good person. But if you're completely neutral in unconditional love, boom, that's where your divine authority comes in. It kicks in. Now, step number 5, you've done everything right and you are fully detached. How could this go? This could go in 2 ways. One way is the other girl says, I had no idea I was behaving like that. I am so sorry. I am so sorry and I'm going to make every effort to change. Not everybody has the capacity to speak this way, unfortunately. That's what I have found. I have found in my life that many people call themselves light workers, but the minute you try to convey something to them in the most love, people don't like it because their shit comes up and they feel attacked. They feel attacked because their parents attacked them in childhood. So they haven't worked through their shadows. So more often than not, you might still get a negative reaction. I'm not saying that's always the case, but that is the case quite often. If it goes well, it's great. You guys have now just figured out your relationship and elevated to a higher frequency. So step number 5 is be fully detached of all outcomes. And let's say in this case, Gabrielle's roommate still came back with a negative response, still came back with attitude. What do, Gabrielle? You be prepared to walk away like the goddess that you are. You say, you know what, I tried. This isn't working out. And guess what it means? It means you have upshifted to a higher frequency. It means that your soul contract with this person has ended. It means that your time to be together with this person has ended. It's as simple as that. So why control it? Why go against it? You've done everything you can. And now the step number 5 is be detached and be prepared to walk away without throwing any fuss, without throwing a temper tantrum, by literally saying, you know what? You don't even have to say it then at the meeting. Because at the meeting, if you say, oh, I'm leaving now, it seems like you're triggered. Instead, you say, okay, thank you so much for your time. You leave the space, you go back, you spend a day like trying to figure out, okay, what do I do about this situation? You get full clarity that I need to find another rental agreement. I need to find another place. I'm not going to continue this relationship. I'm ending this soul contract because I refuse to live with a narcissist. I refuse to live with someone who cannot even have a loving conversation with me. That's ridiculous. And then you do your research. You say, all right, this could be step 6 really. You don't rush into it. You do your research. You don't even tell the other person. You're just calm. You're not playing games, but you're just calm. You're not taking shit, but you're just calm. You avoid the person as much as you can. And when you run into them, you keep a light-hearted environment. without being fake. And step number 6 is you do all your research, you find your next step, you find a place to live, and then you leave without any confrontation, you leave without any accusation, you leave in love. You don't have to suck up to the other person, that's not what I'm saying at all, but you just leave because listen, the other person's opinion of you isn't important. The other person's reaction to you leaving isn't important. The other person getting inconvenienced that you're leaving is not important. You made your decision and now you leave with no cords. You leave with no tethers. And there, just like that, you have upped your communication skills. You have upped your unconditional love. You've shifted everything and boom, just like that, by the law of attraction, you will be connected with a roommate or a room or a place that is much more aligned to your present vibration. I have another note, and if any of, I can take maybe 1 or 2 questions. I have another note. So Gabrielle asked, this is a very innocent question to ask, Gabrielle. I'm very, very impressed that you asked this question. It touches my heart when you guys have this kind of self-responsibility and self-accountability. This actually means more to me than anything. This is what I consider hardcore ascension students. This is what it means to always reflect and say, was that the dark taking over me because I swore? Was that the dark channeling through me because I was rude to her? And then most of you feel like shit because you're like, shit, why did I swear at her? You don't see the other person's actions, but you take accountability. And I'm going to tell you, no, it was not. This is not what we call the dark channeling through you. Let me tell you the traits of what it feels like when the dark, who can the dark channel extreme venom through? Saying fuck you is a reaction. Swearing, like you swore at her, that's a reaction, that's a trigger. The dark frequency that I talked about in my video are more like extreme venom, extreme revenge, extreme hate, ulterior motives, like I have to take this girl down, I have to hurt her where it hurts the most. These are the frequencies of the dark. Or I have to lie, I have to really lie to present a scenario that makes me look good and the other person looks bad. Let's say we fired someone from their job with love, with nothing but love, but their ego is hurt now because they've gotten fired. Oh my God, I got fired, how dare they? Everything was fine, you pay them out, you pay them a bonus, you follow the 6 steps, but they're triggered because when you lose your job, when they lose their job, their ego gets flared up. And when their ego gets flared up, they are like, I have to prove that I'm a right person. So they make up lies. So this is the frequency of the dark channeling through you. So Gabrielle, you do not have to worry about it. You're not channeling the dark, you're just triggered. So you have to work on balancing your triggers by letting go of judgment, letting go of superiority, and understanding that you're not perfect, she's not perfect. Having this common conversation is important. All right, so that's it, you guys. I'm so glad we got into this. Does anyone have a question? Now's a good time. If not, we will wrap up. All right, you're so welcome, Amber. You are so welcome. All right, my friends. Looks like there's no immediate questions. I think we covered all of it. I love you guys so much. Don't forget to watch my latest video on YouTube. It's called, and if the admins can please post the link here, it's called What Happens After Death to the Soul. I'll post it in the comments as well. What happens to after death? What happens during death? What happens right after death? Where does the soul go? What are the different levels of the soul? Do we incarnate? Do we come back? What are the biggest fears about death? So I've made all of that in a YouTube video on my YouTube channel, EldoRa and Simant. We'll see you guys there, and I will be here more often for some YouTube and, for Instagram and Facebook Lives. Our Instagram handle is EldoRa Simant, and I believe our Facebook is also EldoRa and Simant. I love you guys. Thank you for joining me. Bye now. And don't forget, guys, to please share. When you guys share, you're actually providing energy exchange. My intention to ask you guys to share is to make these teachings available to more starseeds, more empaths, more crystals who are struggling with these relationship problems, with these communication issues. So share freely. This is energy, and may all of this sharing energy come back to you 1,000-fold. May all of this, the more you share, the more abundance comes to you. And don't forget, we actually have an amazing event. This it's coming up. It's, I believe, the 29th of this month. It's our mental body masterclass. It's mastering the power of your mind. That is a game changer, and I'll make another live about it in a day or two, about how clearing the clutter in your mind accesses you to more guidance. You can hear your spirit guides. It can literally save your lives. So we're going to talk about how you can unleash the power of your mind. And don't forget, our NEMS memberships, our New Earth Mystery School memberships, are $88 a month for gold, and you get full access to all previous content because we've done all the work for you. We've figured out how to connect with your guides, and we're teaching you because there's no time to waste. We want you guys to jump in your ascension. We want you guys to jump in your soul's evolution. For those of you who are interested, check it out. It's www.EldoRa, ELDORA, and Siman.love. We'll see you guys. I love you. Bye now.